thank you for joining us for another episode of TLC TV. Got Sam Draut with me again here today. Sam, how are you doing?
Oh, doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, well, it's always a great time. I see we've had another great weekend of sports, another great weekend of a lot of happenings happening around campus.
Oh, certainly. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and get into the news section.
Well, this weekend there was a robbery at the Arch inside of the parking complex. It isn't the first time. Now, the Arch took over from what used to be the Groves apartment, and about May 20th or so, they announced a change in management, change in name and everything, kind of a new direction for the area. However, since the change, there's been an increased amount of robberies. It's about 66% or so has been just from thefts and robberies. Another has been criminal mischief, so it's been damage to property on campus. And a couple of the residents interviewed there said that they've approached the management, have raised their concerns about the security at the apartment complex, but there still seems to be these issues happening, and more specifically with this one just this past weekend.
And so were you able to uncover anything while you investigated?
Unfortunately, the management were not available to answer. I tried reaching out to them, but they don't work weekends, unfortunately. So we had to try and reach out to the staff and to the people that were there, the campus people that live inside of the apartment complex. And just from what I've heard from them, it seems to have been an issue that's been raised, but that still needs to be addressed.
Okay, so it is continuing to develop for sure.
Definitely. So we're hoping to get in touch with the management here soon and see if we can get their word on what's being done to try and remedy the situation.
Okay.
So what's been going on with sports, though? I know it's been a very crazy weekend with the recent UK victory.
Yes, it was a fun weekend for a lot of Louisville fans and the Louisville football team in particular. So they actually played the Governor's Cup rivalry game against Kentucky in Lexington this year, and before the game, U of L has won 4 straight, so it was a big game for both teams. For Kentucky, they were trying to reach that bowl eligibility for the first time in quite some time. Louisville sat at the game 6-5, so wanted to get that 7th win to be 7-5 going into your bowl game. And the game started out just as bad as it could for Louisville. Kentucky comes in, they march down the field, score 7 points early, so they're up 7-0. And it turns around. Kyle Bolin throws a couple interceptions. One's returned for an 81-yard touchdown. And all of a sudden, Kentucky's up 21-0. So about as bad of or poor of a way the game could start for Louisville. It really looks bleak early on within probably about halfway through the first quarter. So after that, Bobby Petrino brings in Lamar Jackson, and Jackson kind of gets going. Louisville gets a score to go up, or to make the score 21-7. And Kentucky gets a late field goal at the end of the half to make it 24-7 going into halftime. So things looked very bleak, and they didn't look good. One thing, if you talk to the players and coaches after the game, they never doubted themselves, and they continued to play hard. So going into the second half, it turned out Louisville kind of got on a roll and got some rhythm going offensively. Lamar Jackson ran the ball extremely well. Brandon Radcliffe had a good game. And they were running a read option play that was working very well. Actually, on Louisville's second scoring drive, they ran it 3 straight times, and Kentucky didn't have an answer for it. So it was touchdown after touchdown, and it turned out they had a game-tying touchdown with 2 seconds left in the third quarter, and all of a sudden it's a tie game going into the fourth quarter, and that was when Louisville comes out and scores 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and really takes control of the game. Lamar Jackson was phenomenal. He ended up with 186 yards rushing, averaged 10.9 yards per carry, so he really dominated the offense, and he played extremely well. On the defensive side of the ball, the defense locked in. Kentucky only had 2 first downs in the second half. Actually, UK's final drive before it started, Kentucky had just 15 yards of offense in the second half before that late drive happened. That Kentucky ended up arching the ball down the field, but Jermaine Reeve had an interception near the end zone to kind of just wrap the game up. So Louisville ends up winning 38-24 and captures their 5th straight Governor's Cup victory. So it was a big win, and when you're down 24-7 or 21-0, it can get kind of dicey, but this is a team that's come back before, so it was good for them to get a victory to kind of close out the regular season.
Definitely. It seems like U of L football has kind of found a good working formula, at least in terms of the offense and the defense, and especially with that kind of switch between Bolin whenever he's hot or cold and between Lamar Jackson when he's hot or cold, running game, passing game. It seems like we've got a pretty good formula going. So what do you think that means for football from now on, now that we've won the UK game, now that we seem a bit more eligible for the bowl game?
Yeah, so it's a good win for Louisville because when you look at the ACC, just getting that 7th win to be 7-5, they can look into maybe a top tier. There's 2 tiers, so there's a Tier 1 and Tier 2 bowl. So Louisville might be in one of those Tier 1 bowls, like a Belk Bowl or a TaxSlayer Bowl. So they'll be competing with ACC teams because of those kind of automatic bids with the ACC. So that'll be interesting to see, but the bowl game's also important. Louisville's got an extremely young roster. 17 of 22 starters on offense and defense are set to return next year, so they've got a lot of young guys. When you look on the offensive side of the ball, primarily young guys start. There's only really one senior, Aaron Epps, on the offensive line. There hasn't been a senior to make a reception this year, so you've got Jackson and Bolin will be returning, but you've got a young group of guys that the bowl game's going to be important, but the 13 practices that lead up to that are going to be a great opportunity for Trino to continue to work in his system, work on the guys' technique, and the guys to continue to learn just college football.
Wow. So it sounds like we got a good future ahead. So, well, thank you again, Sam, for coming in to talk with us about sports, get a bit of a news update. Thank you again for joining us for TLC TV. And thank you for coming in again, Sam.
Thank you very much.
We'll join you next time.